Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. Mark here from Digital Groove Online. This week I'm going to talk about sampling kick drums from your favourite producers' tracks. Now, sampling has been around for many years. In the 80s it was quite popular in hip hop music, and as we moved through the electronic age of dance music, 90s and 2000s, people are still sampling kick drums from famous artists' music. And why you might want to do that, sample packs like Splice and Loopcloud do provide great samples that are already well produced. However, sometimes these artists use different techniques and run it through all sorts of outboard gear, and you can get some nice kick drums that just punch through the mix a hell of a lot better. And I'm going to show you two ways that I know of, and I'm sure there's plenty more. You can let me know in the comments, but there's two ways that I know how to do it. One I've just learned quite recently, and I'm keen to try it out. I watched a video from D Ramirez, and it was a really good video, and I've never thought of it like that before. So I'm going to show you two techniques. The first technique is one that I've used for many years, and the second technique I'm going to use is one that I've learned quite recently, and you can decide which one sounds better. You can try both out, but all in all, whenever we're sampling tracks from other people's music, I've taken a Jody Wisternoff and Prof track, and it's a very short sample, so hopefully it doesn't get copyright flagged. That's why I haven't brought in the full track. But you want to look at the track inside Ableton, and you want to isolate a kick drum that is close to clean as possible, so you can flick through the whole mix. And once you get to somewhere that has a nice clean kick drum, clean enough anyway, you might have little hat samples and things just playing in the background, but you don't really want any texture like bass lines or pads or effects playing through it. But it's try and get that kick drum as clean as possible. So I've just taken this little sample here, which I'm going to play through in a second. Before we do that, I'm going to go into the file itself and show you that I haven't warped it. So I'm just trying to keep it at its original recording. When you apply warp, it just changes the audio a little bit, but we're just going to keep that as clean as possible from how it was recorded in the first place. The second thing I'm going to do is just get rid of clip edges by hitting A and bringing up my automation line. If you're hitting A and it's not working, it's because this is turned on up in the top. So turn that off and hit A, your automation lines will come up, and we're just looking to create a little fade on the side. And I'll just do it here as well, because the kick drum actually starts here. And I've just looped a little section, and I'm going to loop that over and over again as we can listen to it. Okay, so I'll let you hear what the kick drum sounds like. So it is pretty clean as it is already. There is little hi-hats at the end here. So the first method I'm going to talk about is using multi-band compression. So how we're going to do that is going to keep an original of this file at the top here, and I'm going to create, sorry, delete that by mistake, and I'm going to create 3 versions of this track. I'm just going to turn this one off, and on each of these versions that I have created, I am going to put on multiband dynamics, and we find that under audio effects, and we're just going to take the plain multiband dynamic settings, and we're going to apply that to all 3. So now whenever we look at each track, we should have 1 on each of those. Yeah, I've put 1 on the first one by mistake. Let's take that off. So the first one has it, the second one has it, and the third one has it. So I'm going to take the first one, and we're going to solo the high frequencies. We're going to take the middle one, and we're going to solo the mid frequencies, and then we're going to take the bottom one, and we're going to solo the low frequencies. Okay, so if I play these all together, it will sound exactly the same. Okay, but if I play them individually, we've now separated them into 3 bands: highs, mids, and lows. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do after that is I'm going to take these 3 and highlight them all, and I'm going to right click, and we're going to freeze and flatten those tracks down. So now you can see it's taken each of these elements, the highs, the mids, and the lows, and it's just bounced them down into audio, and now we can shorten those waves up to make them sound more like that kick drum. So the first thing I will do is solo the top one, and we'll just have a listen to it over and over again. So we want to get rid of this information here that is not required. The transient of the kick drum is at the very start. Okay, so what we're going to do is delete this, and we'll create a little fade on the edge, and we're going to bring that right up. So, and we can change and tweak this over time, so we can make it nice and short. And then we will move on to the second one. And we're going to do something similar. Create a fade on the edge, and we'll bring that up. And then on the bottom one, we're going to do the same. I'm actually going to loop this right on the number 2 here, because we know if I zoom out, back into here, the kick drum should really be halfway across this. Okay, and then the next kick drum would start here. And the reason I'm doing that is normally the bass line, the hi-hats and everything else sort of come on the offbeat. So we want the kick to be just sitting around halfway across this. So let's just solo that as we have in the corner, and we'll have a listen to that. It's not actually right on the number 2 as well, remember. So let's loop this over. Okay, and we'll just start bringing the element in above. We're starting to lose that click. And the more we shorten this up, we're starting to lose the tail end of the kick. I just brought the top little transient down a little bit compared to the rest of it. Okay, once we have that sort of isolated then, and we've brought that to make it sound like the kick drum, we can then right click and insert an audio channel underneath, and then we're going to set it to resample mode, and we'll start it from back here. And we're asking the system to listen to anything that's playing and record it back in below. So let's do that now. And we'll turn the loop off. Oh, Should have armed the track as well. So let me just have a look at that. We will consolidate just this area here. Take those away. And when we go into consolidation, we can see at the bottom that there's still 3.3 decibels of headroom there. So we can put that up to 0. And another thing I would do is just bring the start point. I'll just turn that warp marker off again. Just bring that start point up to the very start. Just somewhere along a 0 crossing there. So 0 crossing is these little lines. If it sort of sits off it, like here, you'll hear clicks and pops in the actual audio sound. So you want to get it as close maybe there, somewhere close to the crossing. We can zoom back out again. And we'll just solo that on its own. Now we've got a nice clean kick drum. And you can also just apply EQ after it as well. So let's just loop that up. And we'll just play with the EQ a little bit too. Yeah, quite like that. I'm going to freeze and flatten it one more time. And that just bakes that into the EQ changes that we made into the audio file. And now we can just drag that into any sampler or drum rack or just use it as plain audio. So let's see how that sounds in the context of maybe a loop. So there we go. We'll just move that down a little bit too. Okay, let's drop that in here. So this is the kick. I'll try and shorten that up just so we can hear it. You can still hear there's elements in that. And we've managed to isolate those and remove those from the actual audio file. So let's have a listen to a before and after. Before, after. So let's loop it up here. And we'll just flick between the two. So they're roughly around the same. So I think it's done a good job of that. And that is the way I have always been shown how to do it. And I've used that many times in my own tracks. So I'm going to bring this one that we used at the very start. I'm just going to group these, put them out of the way, and we're going to look at the second method now. Let's bring this one down. And this is one I seen last week. I'm not sure how old the video was, but it was by D. Ramirez, and it was quite cool, and I'd never seen it done this way before, and it seemed to achieve a really good effect as well. and it's quite simple compared to the other version that we've looked at there. And we're just going to use an auto filter. Stock auto filter from Ableton Live. And we're going to look at automating the frequency. So let's click on the frequency, push it right to the top, and bring up our automation lines again. And we're going to let the transient just through a little bit and zoom back out. And then we're going to bring it right down over here. We could maybe just take that off, but we'll bring it right down for now. And then we're going to bend this little line here. So let's listen. I'll play it from before because it doesn't seem to loop right. Okay, I'm going to actually bring this up to the very, very start as well. Just take that little fade off the edge again. I'll maybe bring this back. You can try all different versions of this here by moving this further out and change the slopes at the end. I'm just going to right click that and freeze and flatten that as well, and we'll have a look at it now. And it doesn't have the auto filter on it anymore. Okay, so what we can do now is just play about with the start time a little bit, just to take the edge off that little transient, or we can apply an EQ as well. So we can apply an EQ here. And then we can double click this and go inside, take the warp off, and then we can play about with this little transient, or that little start marker as well, just to maybe take a little bit of the edge off that. The further we go closer here, we're starting to lose that. And then we can sort of loop that up as well. And we'll pop that. We'll turn off these. Okay, so we just have that little percussion sample playing with. So it sounds a little better, this first one that we've done, but we could apply a filter again on this one and see if we can shorten that little transient at the start. It sticks out too much. quite as bad. Yeah, it's right at the start now. And we can right click then and freeze and flatten one more time. Nope. So my computer decided to crash there in the middle of that, so I just resampled it back in basically and came back online. When I resampled it back in, I consolidated it and just turned it back up again after applying that second filter, and it just takes a little bit more of the edge off it now. So let's just put that into context also, and we can flick between the two kick drums. Take that one back out. And we'll just put it down to -3.7. And we'll play one against the other. So let's see. Turn this one off for now. So this is the one that we've just done by applying the second filter to take a little bit more of that transient off. And just lift that up. So just personal taste really. There's a little bit more of the filtering going on in the second one, and you can just hear the transient sounds a little bit different. The both kick drums sound quite good, but they do sound slightly different, so it depends what sound you want to go for. Try both of those and just see what works for you. But sampling kick drums is a really nice way of getting professional sounding kick drums from other tracks into yours. Obviously I wouldn't recommend doing it with melodies or anything else, but short kick drums or short hi-hat samples or snares or things like that just sounds really good. I don't think there's anything wrong with sampling that. If we just look for a more full percussion loop, and we'll put a more full percussion loop in with this just to see how that sounds. And go back into here. Actually, sorry, this one. And let's go into percussion loops. And let's try the organic ones maybe. Yeah, I quite like the first one. Let's drag it in over the top of it. And we'll just keep that loop on. Play kick 2. The second one down below seems to be a bit longer, as you can see. This one sort of stops here. So let's shorten that tail up a little bit to see if that makes a bit of a difference. And that should finish us for today. So it's not quite as long. I quite like the first one still, but mess about with that technique and see what you can come up with. You'd be surprised that one might sound better over the other, depending on what type of kick drum that you're taking from other tracks. So hopefully that's been beneficial to you, and you apply that in your next production. and you might see that takes you up another level again. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you next week.